So I'm going to bring up Josh Levine. Josh is the principal of a consultancy called Great Mondays and the global co-founder of Culture Lab. So we are all gathered here today because of this man and his vision and his work. He's the author of a book by the same name, Great Mondays, and he is going to walk through 6 elements of the DNA of culture and actionable steps around each of those levers. So with that, Josh, I'm going to leave it to you.
Awesome. I don't know what these are for because there's no way I'm going to be sitting down. Holy crap. I am so excited to be here for so many reasons. Number one is I just love talking about culture, which is not surprising. Number two is I grew up not too far from here in Central Florida and spent my summers in Georgia and have spent a lot of time in Atlanta. I haven't been back in a long time, so it does feel like a kind of homecoming to me. So it's been really wonderful to have this opportunity. Number two, I don't know, whatever number we're on. Like Kyle said, 6 or 7 years ago, I, with a few of my friends in the Bay Area, started a group of people who wanted to talk about culture as a practice, like a design practice. And there were a lot of organizations that were thinking about HR in a new way, but we wanted to kind of think about it outside of HR. We wanted to have a bigger point of view. And so there was no place to have that conversation. So we just got together and we just said, you know, every once in a while we're going to get together and we're going to talk about this. And I was really passionate about the idea, but not a lot of people knew what I meant when I said I was really into culture. They always respond. The response was, what do you mean, like ballet? And I was like, wow, you are so far off. It's unbelievable. We need to get this figured out. So before you know it, we had labs in multiple cities. We had events happening quarterly. And now we're in 9 cities across North America. Atlanta started just last year, like almost like a year ago. And it's one of the most active labs that we have. And obviously evidenced by, you know, all these people that showed up so early in the morning, which is incredible. So it's awesome to see how far and wide this passion for culture has been. And is starting to really percolate. And now, when I tell people, hey, I'm really passionate about company culture, they say, oh, I get it. I know what you're talking about. Well, I think I know what you're talking about. And it's to that question or that response, I said, oh, I need to write a book about this. This is something, I have something to say on this subject. And so that is the premise of today's talk, is essentially, how do you put edges around this really fuzzy idea? How do you figure out, like, what levers do you need to pull in order to change your culture, in order to improve it, in order to establish a vision for what your organization wants to be? And so that is what we're going to be talking about today. So very quickly, a few introduction slides. Gosh, I got to make this bigger. But this is the quote that I saw on the wall of a fancy schmancy bakery in the Mission early in my culture career. And I thought, oh man, I got goosebumps. I was like, this is what culture is about. And I will read it for you. If you want to build a ship, don't gather people to collect together wood and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the immensity of the sea. Teach them to long for the immensity of the sea. That is it. That's it. That's like, to me, that is the essence of culture. How do you bring together people and inspire them in a way so that they know what they're supposed to do? They understand. It's like the opposite of micromanagement. It's like macro management or something. I have PDFs of this and I can send them out if you guys want, like desktops and everything. I mean, like, I love this thing so much. We had originally created some silkscreen posters for this when we originally did it. That's how much I loved it. All right, so quickly, I just told you about that part. Kyle mentioned this, so Culture Design for Technology and Social Enterprise Organization. I'm also a father of 3 when I'm not doing all those things. My wife is upset because I haven't changed this picture in a very long time. But afterwards, if you'd like to see more current pictures of my kids, I have them on my phone. And then finally, I've been working on this. It's kind of taken over my entire life for the past 2 years. This has been a passion project and essentially the vehicle, the reason to be able to come out and say hi and meet all you people and share my vision, share my passion with the world. Let's start with why. Let's start with why. 10 years ago, when I realized, so I'm a brand strategist actually by training. That's where I started. And I had this moment in my career when I thought, actually, if we're really gonna deliver on a brand promise, the stuff on the outside, the stuff that you put in the marketing materials, we actually have to engage the people on the inside. So 10 years ago, when I started this, I came out into the world and I said, culture is where it's at, right? And we already heard that people were like, I don't understand why that's a thing. But now it's a thing. Like, what happened? I didn't like, as much as I wanted to and like was screaming at the world that culture was important, it wasn't my voice. Something happened, something shifted, something changed. What's happening now, and the reason everybody is feeling, I would say, a general sense of anxiety in business, kind of this weight of like, I can't keep up. Raise your hand if you feel like, man, it's a lot. There's a lot going on. What if you feel, do you feel that kind of general sense of anxiety? It wasn't always that way. I mean, for the Jews it is. But in general, it wasn't always that way. Things are changing. Things are changing. And it's primarily because of technology. Technology is dragging us all along. It's accelerating the pace at which things are happening, which is awesome. Mostly, but we haven't figured out how to catch up with that. We haven't figured out how to operate in that way. Has anybody heard of this term, VUCA? Raise your hand if you've heard of VUCA. We've got a couple VUCA folks. Here's what VUCA means: volatility, complexity, uncertainty, and ambiguity. And it's a term that actually came from the United States military. At the end of the Cold War, they realized that in geopolitical conflict and diplomacy, command and control didn't work anymore, because this is the state of what was happening. They had to teach folks, they had to teach their diplomats and their soldiers how to operate under their own command, because everything was so crazy. And so just a few decades later, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to realize business is suffering this same state. Maybe not suffering, maybe it's an opportunity, but we're suffering because of it, because we haven't learned how to adapt. So 10 years ago and before, if we wanted to enter a new market or start a new business, or we wanted to become more efficient, we would hire a big consulting firm and we would tell everybody, next quarter we're going to have a reorg. We're going to change the way things are. Here it comes, it's happening. Some people lost their jobs, some people didn't. Everybody's kind of going, oh, okay, next quarter. All right, fine, realigned, we're good. But it's not like that anymore. Now it's all the time. Culture change is a constant, which I argue is the reason we're going, ugh, man. That's what's happening. It's all the time, all the time. All right, so let's get on the same page. Now that we know why we're here, or why we're talking about culture, let's get on the same page about the definition of culture. This was the first question I asked with my colleagues. Like, what the hell is the definition? Like, what is this thing? I would say it is critical in that it's the foundation of an organization. This is why it's so important. And I would also say that it's not this. It is not the cold brew on tap, which, by the way, is like a thing now in San Francisco. I don't know if it's a thing here. Yeah, it is? Oh, great. I mean, excellent. Everybody, now you have a shitty culture, but just faster. Right? Like that's... All right, so what is it? You don't have to read this because I'm going to tell you that whatever, it's fine. Okay, here's the definition, the dictionary definition of the beliefs, customs, and arts of a particular group or society. A particular society has its own beliefs or ways of life, a way of thinking, behaving, or working that exists in a place or an organization. I don't disagree. I just don't think it's very inspiring or interesting. This is what I say. Culture is the cause and effect of every choice that you make. Now, I feel like it's an incomplete definition, but it's very useful. And it's incomplete because it doesn't have all the beliefs, norms, and but it does reveal the importance, the reason why we're talking about it. It's because it's both the cause and the effect, right? It's a cycle. And choices are what makes businesses run. Businesses are simply decision-making machines. I don't care how many servers you have or how many algorithms you've written, you still have people, and they are still making those choices. This is what affects the choices that you make. You might call it strategy, and you might have one, but you're making a choice based on your culture. So you can easily see how culture, for better or worse, is contagious. One more reason why we're talking about company culture is because it is the only sustainable competitive advantage in the 21st century. You might talk about quality assurance or efficiency or design or innovation or the war for talent. All of those things you can be beat on. All of those things you do need to be excellent in. But sooner or later, your colleagues or your frenemies will also be good at those things. But culture is the one thing that cannot be stolen and cannot be copied. You might have read Laszlo Bloch's book on Google culture, and you might have learned some things, but that culture is not for you. That is not the culture for you. Neither is Zappos. Although I do urge you to go visit their headquarters, it's an amazing experience. But that's not your culture. Only you can create your culture. And even if, as happens in Silicon Valley, the average tenure of your employees is 18 months or less, 18 months or less, if you have a powerful culture, anybody who comes in can onboard quickly and become effective and engaged deeper and stay longer. Does anybody know what happened? Remember what happened with United a few years ago? What story comes to mind? Do you guys know what I'm referring to when I think about the culture of United? Who wants to tell me that story or tell us that story? What happened? Yeah. The guy who got dragged off the plane, what happened? I'll fill in the blanks, but go ahead. Sketch it out for us. Someone got dragged off a plane, why?
I can't remember why. I believe they overbooked the plane.
Uh-huh.
They were choosing a United employee needed the seat over a paying passenger. The passenger would leave. He had that seat assigned to him.
Yep.
Got his butt kicked, dragged off.
They overbooked the flight. Fine, that's part of the practice. One of their employees, one of their flight attendants I think it was a flight attendant, need to get to the next hub. Nobody would take the voucher. It wasn't like it was a packed flight. They needed to get home Friday night, Monday morning, whatever it was. I don't remember, right? They were like, $400 voucher for anybody who will, willing to stay the night. $600 voucher for anybody who's willing to stay the night. $800 voucher for someone who's willing to stay the night. Nobody. And so the choice they made was they dragged some poor guy off the frickin' plane. The customer. What happened? The customer's always right. Or even something, the customer's always safe. How about we just start with that? I mean, that's ridiculous. Raise your hand if you were on that flight. Let's say you had to get home for a critical meeting. And I said, I have a voucher for $250,000. Raise your hand if you would get off that flight. If you had, it was a critical meeting. I mean, this is like critical meeting. You would? You would? Okay, so somewhere between $800,000 and $250,000 is the right number. What if those people were empowered to make a better choice? To say, we're going to offer a great, this is just the simple first thing I could freaking think of. I'm not in this industry. I bet there's other solutions, but I'm just going, hey, what if you had the authority? How much money would you say it was worth not to be, have a video of your customer being dragged off the plane? How much money is that worth? What do you think, right? $10,000? Easily $10,000. What if I had the authority to say, I'm going to offer this voucher for that much money? Do you think that someone's going to walk off the plane? Yes, that is a better choice. That is the culture at work. Now, that's an exaggerated example. Most of our lives, we don't have that. But it's to make a point. It's to make a point that culture, we just can't, it's so important. We can't leave culture to chance. We cannot. Which is why today we're talking about how to design culture, how to design our culture. Whew. Okay. I'm gonna take a sip of water. Let's not wait till the end to have our Q&A. Let's mix it up. To me, I'm a very kind of, I don't know if you noticed, very interactive kind of guy. My book is written that way. We've got exercises and big quotes and pink pages and things. I want to kind of have a conversation in the book and here today. So let's start, if only for an excuse so I can drink some water and stop talking for a second. Does anybody have a comment or a question at this point before we dive into the 6 components? You will have to talk sooner or later. So, oh, excellent. Hi. If there is a strong desire to work remotely, I'll just repeat the question for now. Yeah, we're going to do the microphone cube afterwards. But if there's a strong desire to work remotely, can you build a culture? That's a great question. I believe it's possible. I am not sure how yet. But we do have the tools and the devices to be able to talk to each other, but what does that mean for an organization? And how do you have relationships? Like, that feels really hard to me, and I'm thinking a lot about it, and I think it's exactly the question, is exactly where the conversation is for me, about how do you build a culture where people are widely distributed? Widely distributed. Does anybody have an example? Are you part of an organization? Yeah. Oh, hi. I didn't even finish the question, but I bet she already knows what that's going to be. Yes. Yeah. Can you build a culture remotely? I'm just going to repeat so we can capture it. So you're working. Oh, all right. Kyle's right. All right.
So I worked for a virtual staffing company. So we had contractors all over the U.S., all remote. And we also had a corporate team, all remote. And what I realized after working there, that I am so close to my coworkers, but I only saw them 4 times a year. So I said, there's something to it. And I think the biggest thing for me was intentionality in your communications, in your connections, because you're not seeing each other, in person or face to face. You can't just walk down the hall. It's a lot more intentional. Lots of video calls, and it doesn't negate that you never meet in person. You do meet in person like 4 times a year, but yes,
that's my current hypothesis. Yeah. My current hypothesis is, if you have a remote culture, you still, I know you think you're saving a lot of money, but that shouldn't be the only reason you're doing it, because you still need to meet these people and exist with these people face to face. I think that's the key. I think there's a lot of great tools, and I think we're going to have these connections, but I think we have to. I think we have to get together and know people.
Okay, my question is, size organization that makes it very difficult to drive cultural change or continuity?
Size of an organization. Well, I think there's a strong correlation between scale and change, and we are talking about change. So the larger the organization, the more people we have to influence. That's okay. New people to existing people. That is it, right? So if you're scaling, hyper scaling, if you're bringing in a lot of new people, yeah, those people can dilute the culture. So you need to have those forms in place. You need to have those structures and clarity around what you're trying to do, and say, hey, this is the way we do things around here. What we'll get to in a little bit, which is definitely about size, but in kind of answering your question, which is at what point, because at a certain point, right, you start a company and you're like, things are good, like you just have a founder's culture. But then at some point you look up and you're like, whoa, what happened? So I would say between 50 and 100 people, when you're starting off, between 50 and 100 people is when you start to scale beyond the founders. Beyond the founders, and then you start to have these little subgroups that break off. And it's because it is a limitation of our brains and our sort of the energy that we have to connect with more than 50 people at work to have these relationships. It takes a lot of energy. So one of the components is addressing exactly that. Great, excellent. One more question, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Are the same 6 steps used to build, to transform? Yes. All right. So without further ado, 6 components: purpose, values, and behaviors, recognition, rituals, and cues. Purpose, values, and behaviors, I would say, are the codification, the design part of it. How do we establish what we want? Recognition, rituals, and cues is how we activate and operationalize our culture. Activate and operationalize. So let's go through these one at a time. All right. Purpose. I'm a huge fan of purpose, not something that I came up with at all, not an original idea. Is anybody here also a fan of purpose? Raise your hand. Does anybody? Wow, I love it. Awesome. So great. I can tell we're making progress. Does anybody want to offer, like, tell me what is purpose? What is purpose? One of those people who raised their hands. What is purpose? It's why we do what we do. Excellent. Why we do what we do. Anything else? Anybody have anything else to add? Clarity. Yes. That's the result is that if you have a clear and compelling purpose, then you actually want to go up, get up and go to work. Purpose is the reason we do what we do beyond making money. It's why I care. It's why I'm spending time with my coworkers and not my family. It is my North Star. And an individual can have purpose, and an organization definitely can have purpose. Definitely have purpose. So when we think about what it is we're trying to do, we think about let's say it's the top of the mountain, the peak, and we can say that is what we're looking for. Purpose is what we need. Purpose is what we're trying to achieve. I would say our purpose is to help more people love what they do at work. Does anybody here have a good purpose statement in their organization? They can, I don't know if that has to be exact, but does anybody want to offer that up? Any other examples? Yes. Together we give rise to change. Pretty compelling. Pretty compelling. What's your organization? 22 Squared Advertising. Yeah, that's great. That really helps me understand the difference maybe between you and other advertising agencies, right? Fantastic. Yeah.
Our organization purpose is basically damn near mimicking top to bottom. Instead of a company, help a city leverage its culture.
Oh, wonderful. Help a city leverage its culture. Great. Great. Yeah, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big, ambitious. It has to be. It has to be big. It has to be ambitious. It's an important piece of the puzzle. But I would say that it is not the, it is, you can't just put that out there. You can't just put out purpose and say, okay, everybody go. As much as I love that quote. As much as I love that quote. One of the exercise that's in the book, this is sort of the takeaway for the purpose statement. The exercise that's in the book that you can see, I run all my clients through to help them discover their purpose. And the way that we do that is we push them forward 25 years. And we say, forget all the stuff that happened today. Why will you be excited about, like, why would you'll be remembered? What did you do? What was your ding in the universe, to quote Jobs? What would you be proud of to say that you did? Forget about this quarter's results. Forget about the numbers for a second. What is it that you want to be remembered for? Is it awesome banner ads? No, it is definitely not awesome banner ads, although they're very profitable. Or maybe they used to be. Whatever. It's bringing rise. We change things. We help an organization change, or we help the city change. That I can be proud of. So that's the kind of scale and inspiration. And the bigger the purpose, the more inspirational it is, the more people are going to be inspired by it. The more people that are going to join you on this journey. All right, how do we get to the top of the mountain? Values. If purpose is our why, values are our how. Let's continue with my silly mountain metaphor. If we just said the peak is where we're headed, go ahead. Everybody go there. I don't know, you might find the right path, but you might also fall into a crevasse. Or you might try to hop on the gondola, which is cheating. You don't want that. If you only reward, if you only identify purpose or a particular outcome, how will we know what kinds of decisions to make? If you only reward the outcome, I'll say again, if you only reward the outcome, you're going to get people making choices that are not aligned with your culture. Wells Fargo scandal, for example. 2 years ago, it was discovered that across the organization, the bankers, the relationship bankers, and others were opening false or unauthorized accounts. How in the world is that possibly okay to do? Now, I don't blame any individual because we all know we've been inside of an organization where the incentives are skewed and the environment helps us move in a particular direction. And so they succeeded in moving the needle when it comes to profitability. But of course, it was not the right way to do it. Of course. It's not like, well, I don't know, it's kind of fuzzy. No, clear, right? But they did it anyways because they were being rewarded on the wrong thing. They did not have the guardrails to make better decisions, which is what values are. This is what values are. Values are the guardrails to make good decisions inside of an organization. Who here has values inside their organization? Whose organization has values? Great. Okay, keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. Who here knows what their values are? Well, that's pretty good. Well, I guess we are a room full of culture people. Who here's organization has 5 values or less? 5 values or less. Hey, that's pretty good. 6? I only let my clients have 5. 3 to 5. 3 to 5. What's that? Yeah. Who here knows exactly what each of those values means for them as far as decisions are concerned? Are they up on the wall as nice to haves? Or are they something that you apply every day? Yeah? You apply every day? Excellent. Nice. Put your hands down. Excellent. Great values, they need to be concise so that we can remember them. They also need to be well defined so we understand what we're talking about, but not so defined that I can't see myself in them. Because what it means, this should apply to everybody. And what it means for someone at the front desk is different from what it means from the security guard, is different from what it means from a manager and the executive. What is the intent behind that value is what we're looking for. So how do you define it so that everybody's clear about the intent? But it's not so well defined or so fleshed out that you can't, it's not specific in the way that it's articulated so that it applies to everyone. You can only have 3 to 5 values. I've never seen less than 3, but I always see more than 5. And the reason is because I can't remember more than 5. That is a lot. Zappos is like 13. They have to print them on the boxes to remember them. I love Tony. I think he's amazing, and everything they do is all about those 13 values. I give him a pass, but you guys are not Tony Shea, so you do not get more than 5. Values, what you choose for your values is all about prioritization. And what you leave out is almost as important as what you include. This is a hard exercise for executives and anybody. But this is important. But this is important. Well, if you give me many things to do, then none of them matter. Let's really make a decision. Now, one other thing that I want to tell you about values, which is interesting in the process and the experience that I've had helping organizations develop them, is that if you are awesome at something, you do not have to make it a value. It is already part of your culture. We can include it in one of sort of the value themes that can be invoked. For example, we have a client right now who's awesome at diversity and inclusion. It's just everywhere. They know exactly what they're doing. They are hiring like crazy, and they are terrific at it. And they're like, one of our values needs to be diversity. It's really important. No, why would you waste a slot, one of those 5 slots, on something you're really great at? Let's use our values to stretch our capacity. Let's use our values to work on the things we're not so good at. That's what I hope values do, is they set a benchmark up front, and they say, this is what I want you to kind of go forward and move towards this. I want to hold you accountable. Not so much that it's ridiculous, but it's something I'm working on or something I'd like to work on. One of the values for this client that I'm talking about right now, so classic kind of Silicon Valley story, high tech, crazy growth. They're about to go IPO. One of the things that we discovered is that there wasn't a lot of accountability inside the organization. There was a lot of complaints about how people didn't really own things. And so we were working with them to figure out how to articulate this. And what we learned is that in their product, there's a key customer touch point. So their product alerts developers of their companies when there's a problem with their website or a problem that's coming up. And the command is ack and own. I respond by pushing that button. I say, I acknowledge I got this, and I'm going to do something about it. When we heard that, we were like, oh, that's it. That's the value, ack and own. And everybody went, whoa, totally. That is one of the things that we need to work on. Also, how deeply rooted in our culture is it? That's amazing. We had some people say, this might be problematic because I don't think everybody in the company knows what it is. We're not all, nerds. I mean, I think they said developers, but nerds. And we said, even better. You get to tell your story. Hey, in our product, when this happens, this is what your customer sees. Beautiful. Values can be highly differentiated and should be highly differentiated. I know that most values are the same across the board because we all want to be collaborative and innovative and trustworthy. But we're not Boy Scouts, we're a company. And how am I supposed to know as a potential employee or an employee that's currently there that this is the place for me? If you operate by the same principles that every other company does. So I challenge you to consider how differentiated are your values? Again, brand guy, brands only work when they're highly differentiated. Your culture is your internal brand. Your culture is your internal brand. And if you're trying to hire amazing people, if you're trying to hire the best or the best fit for you and keep their butts in the seats, whether it's at home, whether their seat is at home, remote, or in the office, tell them what they can expect and why this is the place. This is what we value. Now, if you think about the peak, and then you think about the guardrails, the flags, this is the path. Path can't be too narrow, so it applies to everybody. That path is behaviors. That's what we're looking for. Behaviors are the center point of the organization. Behaviors are the center point of the culture. Sorry. Behaviors are the center point of the culture. Okay? That's the goal. That's what we're trying to do. So this is the third piece in articulating that vision. The third piece in articulating that vision. So I want to tell you an example, a case study we have in the book. It's all about DigitalOcean. So DigitalOcean is a developer platform based in New York City, but I know they have an outpost in San Francisco. Really powerful consulting group. And they decided that they needed to have growth. Everybody needed to have like a growth mindset, right? We were talking about VUCA at the beginning. That's awesome. That was a great idea because this industry moves so fast. And if you think like of an organization, a tech organization, it's like fastest of the fastest. So they decided that everybody inside the organization needed to learn how to learn. They needed to learn how to have a growth mindset. And so what they did is based on that idea, this is the behavior that we want. They actually instituted peer coaching and even hired a full-time coach inside the organization to make sure managers and everybody understood how to be a peer coach, how to have these regular conversations. That is an awesome investment. And the company isn't larger than 200 people, and they're hiring someone full-time to do this? That is a huge investment. But they believe that that behavior was so important. They believe that behavior was so important. What time is it? Are we running late? Okay. That's okay. Oh no, I wasn't calling you out. I'm just trying to figure out what we're going to. Yes. Behaviors are the maybe the symptoms of the value. Yes, I think that's absolutely right. There's a strong connection. They are, if you're, okay, have you ever been in an organization, I won't say whether it's now or before, have you ever been in an organization where the values are on the wall are one thing, but the values that are actually lived are something else? Yeah? Definitely. Explicit, implicit. We need to get that shit together. right? That's really important. And what Rita's saying is that the behaviors are the symptoms of those values. So don't look to the wall for those values. Look to the behaviors. Look to the choices. You can reverse engineer it. Yes, excellent point. Excellent point. To drive that mission? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we don't have, I think we only have 1 more hour. So, all right, Amy's saying that she learned on Monday, interesting, I don't know what happened, what was on Monday she learned that many executives have a strong preference for mission and that the behavior should drive that mission. How do we trick them into believing that values? Yeah, those are, I would say those are tactics. And this is the shift. I mean, what you've just articulated is the shift that's happening in the world right now. Is how do you move from tactical driven short-term thinking to long-term thinking? And it is not easy, and it is a long-term play, absolutely, to think about what are values-driven behaviors? What behaviors or characteristics are going to help you move in that direction? Beat a competitor, go. I mean, what are you going to do? Innovate harder, go. What are you going to do? Like that doesn't, I can't connect to that. So if you actually want to motivate your organization, you have to say, look, it's really important for all of us to own our mistakes and acknowledge them, because we're going to operate as a team. I need to trust you, and we need to move forward a lot faster. How does that happen? That's how we beat the competitor. So you're talking about outcomes, tactics. Let me show you, we already talked about this, right? Accumulation. Let's talk about recognition here. Let's talk about recognition. As mammals, wait, hang on. Whew, I think we need a stretch break. Everybody stand up. Thank you, Amy. Everybody stand up. We need a stretch break. This is a lot of talking. Josh is doing a lot of talking. All right, reach up, way up high. Reach, 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 reach. I'm from San Francisco. What do you fucking want? Come on. Reach up high. Inhale and exhale. All the way down to the ground. Shh. Come on. My wife was a yoga instructor. I got to take something away. Shake it out. Shake it out. Shake it out. Excellent. Check out the legs. Good. All right. More chicken biscuits back there if you need them. Grab some water. It's okay if you stand up. It's fine. Get something if you need. I will continue to talk. But you know what? It's all written in the book anyway. So if you miss something, also I'll hang around afterwards if you miss something. All right. Good. Everybody taking a deep breath? All right. Yeah? You want me to keep going? Or wait? No. 11? I didn't know that. I thought it was 2 hours. I thought I had another hour. All right. Fantastic. We have 5 minutes. We'll go through all of them. Don't go anywhere. Wait. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. I thought it was 11. Okay. Headline it. All right. Quickly. Again, it's all in the book. Don't go anywhere. I haven't even gotten to the end. All right, good. Okay, maybe, yeah, we were. Okay, that's fine. Oh, so excited. I was like, 2 hours. This is going to be awesome. All right, fantastic. So as mammals, we are only going to do the things that we are rewarded and recognized for externally. If you reward and recognize the wrong things, you're going to get people that are going to do the wrong things, okay? So the intent here is to actually be able to recognize, this is what you don't want to miss. Recognize Values-driven behaviors. Most recognition programs are about outcomes, sales, numbers, profits. That's what we were just talking about. We want to talk about values-driven behaviors. Lots of cool stuff in here, but I'm not going to talk about it. Rituals, answering the question about what size company, the reason why culture is so hard to scale. The reason why culture is so hard to scale is because relationships decay at a certain size. You need to establish, it is the company's responsibility to establish rituals in order to strengthen and build relationships across the barriers that occur as an organization grows. We have cubicle walls, we have offices and floors and managerial levels. Those are all barriers, and I don't know who those people are. If you're having a silo problem, you need to talk about rituals. Cool stuff here, not talking about it. Cues, it's all in the book. It's all in the book. Finally, cues. But whatever, we could throw a curveball. That's cool, I'm good. Finally, cues. Cues bring us back to the beginning. I don't care what business you're in, you're always going to have emails and meetings and deadlines and quarters and budgets that you have to deal with. Man, it's a lot. But we have to remember, we have to have a way to remember to keep us afloat on top of all of that stuff. Cues are physical and behavioral reminders of why we're doing what we're doing. The future of the organization. The future of what you're trying to achieve. Physical and behavioral reminders. So you know about the mission statement on the wall. That's an example of a cue. What are some other cues I would challenge you to think about? What are some other behavioral or physical cues to help people remember purpose and values and behaviors? Why they show up in the world? Are you asking me too? Yes. Yeah, oh yes, exactly, yes. If someone has achieved, created done something with a values-driven behavior, and you want to highlight that, or you want to tell stories about your purpose, or a founder's story, those are all examples of cues. That's a whole nother talk. I did want to direct your attention to greatmondays.com because there's a lot of awesome stuff there. And if you didn't get enough in my newly brief version of this talk, subscribe to Great Mondays because we are launching a culture design mini session, a mini semester. It's going to be awesome. Starts in May. It goes over 3 months. We have 6 courses, each an hour and a half. I'm doing it live. You're going to work through all of these problems and challenges together. Sign up this week for our newsletter, and you will get, we'll make sure to get you the 50% off coupon, which is a lot less than even the early bird. So it's all about getting that talent in the door. So it's on Eventbrite. We will send you the information for all that stuff. I wish I had more time with you guys, but it was amazing anyways, an amazing 60 minutes. I'm gonna hang out if you can hang out. I'm here, happy to sign books, happy to, kisses on the cheeks or hugs or whatever you want. I'm all good for it. Thank you guys so much for coming. It was really wonderful to connect with you all. And thanks for that little stretch break about 5 minutes before we had to go.